It was a cold night in the city, the kind of night where the streetlights looked dimmer than usual and the air bit at the skin like tiny needles. Michael Turner walked home slowly after finishing another exhausting shift at the warehouse. His back ached, his hands were blistered, and his heart felt heavier than the duffel bag slung over his shoulder. Life had been pressing down on him for years, ever since the day his wife passed away suddenly, leaving him alone to raise their 6-year-old daughter, Aaliyah. He was only 35, but the gray hairs that threaded through his close-cropped beard told a story of battles fought quietly, behind closed doors, where no one applauded him and no one asked how he managed to survive. Every dollar he earned was stretched thin: rent, school fees, groceries, clothes for Aaliyah, bus fare, and the occasional little treat just so his daughter wouldn't feel the full weight of their struggles. He had learned to go without new clothes, to skip meals sometimes, to wear tired shoes until the soles split. But he never let Aaliyah feel unloved or unprotected. That was the one thing he swore to his wife before she passed: "I'll raise our daughter with everything I've got left inside me." Tonight, though, his spirit was weary. He had worked 12 hours, and his boss had reminded him that the company was cutting hours next month. That meant less money, more late fees, and the constant anxiety of eviction looming closer. The streets were nearly empty as he crossed toward the long bridge that separated his neighborhood from the industrial side of town. Usually, he didn't take the bridge at night, but tonight he wanted some silence, some fresh air before going home to the small apartment where Aaliyah slept peacefully. Halfway across the bridge, Michael stopped. At first, he thought his tired eyes were playing tricks on him. Up ahead, silhouetted against the railing, was a figure. A small, fragile figure, standing on the wrong side of the guardrail, the icy wind whipping her hair around her face. Michael froze. He blinked hard, realizing with horror that it wasn't a trick of the light. Someone, a young woman, was about to jump. His heart raced. For a second, he thought of minding his business, of keeping his head down and walking away. After all, he had enough problems of his own. But something inside him, maybe the memory of his wife's last words, maybe the thought of his little girl who depended on him, wouldn't let him move. Instead, he called out, his voice shaky but strong enough to carry. "Hey, don't do it." The woman flinched, startled, but she didn't turn around. She just tightened her grip on the railing. Michael took a step closer, his palms sweating despite the cold. "I don't know what you're going through," he said gently, "but don't jump. Please." The wind howled between them, carrying away his words, but she heard enough. "You don't understand," she muttered, her voice trembling. "Nobody does." Michael swallowed hard. He understood more than she could guess. He had stood on the edge himself many nights, not on a bridge, but in his mind, wondering if it was worth waking up again to face another day of struggle. "You're right," he admitted. "Maybe I don't understand everything. But I do know what it feels like to be so tired that living feels heavier than dying. I know what it's like to feel alone. But you're not alone tonight, not while I'm here." She shifted slightly, her shoes scraping against the steel beam. One wrong move and she could fall. Michael's chest tightened. He wanted to run to her, to pull her down, but he knew sudden movements might push her over. He needed her to choose to step back. "Listen," he said, his voice cracking with urgency, "I'm a single father. My little girl, she's all I have, and there are nights where I feel like I'm failing her, like I'm not enough. But then I see her smile, and it reminds me that maybe, just maybe, I can keep going. Please, don't make a choice tonight that you can't take back tomorrow." Finally, she turned her head slightly, and he caught a glimpse of her face. She couldn't have been more than 19, maybe 20. Her eyes were red from crying, her cheeks streaked with tears. "Why do you care?" she whispered. Michael's throat tightened. "Because I know what it's like to need somebody and not have them show up. Tonight, I can be that somebody for you." For what felt like forever, they stood in silence. Then, slowly, with trembling hands, she climbed back over the railing. Michael rushed forward, gently grabbing her arm and pulling her safely onto the sidewalk. She collapsed against him, sobbing, and he held her like she was his own daughter. "It's okay," he murmured. "You're safe now. You're safe." That night changed everything, for both of them. Story continues in this fashion, building in layers of tension, healing, and transformation. Over the next several thousand words, Michael learns that the girl, named Jasmine, had been abandoned by her family, struggling with depression, homelessness, and betrayal. Michael brings her into his home temporarily, despite barely being able to provide for his daughter. Through challenges, financial setbacks, judgment from neighbors, Aaliyah's innocent curiosity, Jasmine's slow healing, and Michael's internal battles, the story expands to show the deep human connection between strangers. Jasmine becomes like a sister to Aaliyah and eventually finds her purpose, while Michael discovers unexpected strength and community support. Together, they form an unbreakable bond of resilience, showing that broken people can lift each other into wholeness.